And how do you approach discovery to uncover the core problem rather than relying on initial assumptions?
Sure. So I think another very good insight on this that I've recently noticed is that true product experience are deeply rooted in anecdotal behaviors, right? They are not rooted in like statistics. Like I'll give you an example. If there is a tsunami and X number of people die, for most of the world, it's a statistic, right? For somebody who loses a dear one, it's a reality, right? So I think discovery has to be deeply rooted in what it changed for you. What did it change for me? Right? When I'm doing this podcast, when I'm teaching this lecture, what is it doing for that one student that is sitting there? And does it really make improvements to his life or not? Right? And that is where people really think that doing discovery at scale is a hard thing. Yes, it is a very hard thing. It is a very hard thing, right? Because the point is that people are not using just your product. They're using 10 other products in their phone, right? So they're not going to sit out and say that, oh, I'll give you deep, detailed feedback on this, right? So you have to follow the reverse process and kind of build a product of your own. So I typically ask this question, like if I ask, Ki, Mahmood, tell me the 5 good things that you like in a car. In most likelihood, you're going to tell me, oh, it has good mileage, it should look good, it should have good economy. But if I ask you a flip question, what did you not like in a Merc that you tried? You'll give me 50 things. Oh, I didn't like the boot space. I didn't like to rotate the steering wheel and things like that, right? What you typically do is figure out a target persona of yourself, right? And say that this is where I'm going to talk to very, very closely, right? And genuinely talk to, like invest time, right? And come up with a lot of solutions to the assumed problem that I have. That is the assumed problem. The moment anecdotally people are extremely happy, and one of the very good ways is they're willing to swipe their card, that is when you've really realized that you've hit the core of the problem. See, saying that I love your product, it's a great thing, right? But not swiping your card means nothing. So PMF is truly when people are willing to take out their credit card and they do like this on your. So discovery as a process is deeply rooted on how you figure out your target persona and spend considerable amount of time, because people are not good at giving you like deep detailed advice. They'll give you superficial things that, oh, I like this or I like that, and you have to be that person to come up from that advice and come up with what is the insight. Like I keep saying this, insights come from observations, but not every observation is an insight, right? So insight is an observation, but every observation is not an insight, right? So you have to really move from observations to insights, and that can only happen when you consistently stay close to as a teacher. Like I'll give you an example. The reason Rethink Systems was able to build a decently strong community in India was because I was an educator myself, right? I'd spoken to like 10,000 students in over the last 4 or 5 years, right? In one way or the other. So I deeply knew what disturbed them, right? But if let's assume I am a person and one fine day I say I want to start an edtech company and have no clue about what my target audience is, and it seems lucrative because people are putting money there, right? It's not going to bring that kind of persistence. It's going to take you a lot of time to do that discovery, that what really ticks people. Yeah.
And how candidates who are applying for a PM position
Yes.
demonstrate an authentic product thinking and stand out from others?
Absolutely. So I think there are a bunch of ways you can break them down, right? One of the very good ways is that you start consistently writing, shift something out, right? I keep telling people, if you say things that I know something, it has to be visible when you're not there, right? So one of the very important ways for me to really figure out whether I was making sense to a lot of people was writing on LinkedIn. And one of the very real reasons of writing on LinkedIn was because it had constraints. It told me write between 1300 characters or 3000 characters or whatever that number is, right? And I used to reverse and write it down and really see that is it resonating with people or not. And this acted as like a proof of work. Oh, this is what he talks about. That's the first thing. The second thing that I think is a very, very important thing that you have to do is pick up problems. Like there is this approach that I keep telling people: do a pre-interview assignment. What I mean by do a pre-interview assignment is, let's assume you want to go to Swiggy or maybe Zomato or maybe Kareem for that matter in the Middle East, right? So if you pick up a problem for Kareem, really solve it, put it on social media, make it enterprising so that it gets eyeballs, right? And say, oh wow, this guy. It tells two things to the recruiter. One, that he's so passionate that we didn't even tell him to do this, right? But he did it. And the second thing it does is, a resume is just a bunch of highlights. I don't know how you think. It also, if you grab my attention, I say, oh, wow, he thought about this feature which probably nobody. How did carpool really works in Dubai? It works very differently from India, right? How would it work, right? So that this is a second and the third approach that I keep telling people that is also very very critical is please start building your network, right? That's a very strong thing, and all three of them really fall into something called the product portfolio, right? You make something like a portfolio, and again, the goal of a portfolio, again, I started this thing as a portfolio and people do the same gisipiti case studies. Gisipiti is a Hindi word that it's like the same old rugged case studies that, oh, I want to improve this feature, I want to improve. No, the goal of a case study is to essentially give some insight so that the interviewer, the person who is reading it, feels like, oh, I took away something from it. I took away something. Oh, I remember. Like, if you really look at my content, no, even if they don't look at my product management stuff, oh, he's that funny guy who writes humor on LinkedIn, right? That's a way of mingling conversation, and that is where you stand out. But again, it's a function of the same principle that I kept. It's consistency. If you're not consistent, it's not going to work. The philosophical thing that you have to remember is that people overestimate growth in short term and heavily underestimate in long term. It's like this, right? It took me 6 months to find my first viral content on LinkedIn, and I had written like 100 plus posts. Didn't work, right? But I still had to wake up every day. And eventually, over time, it allowed me to have a network. It allowed me to speak to you. In that sense, it allowed me to speak to so many people, build that credibility across, and that is how it happens. So, long answer short, pick up any two, three things, be at it, don't feel bad with failures, be okay with divergent feedback, consistently keep shipping. There will be a point when your content will start making sense to you. It'll give you a lot of value in that sense, and then you will essentially move across industries also, because if I make a view about fintech today and say that Shravan thinks about it like this, I think happily people will be happy to talk to me about those opinions. Yeah.